Before you ask, yes, Sekiro is bloody difficult. In true From Software fashion, each of the dozen or so bosses and mini-bosses I've faced in the 20 or so hours I've played so far have spun me through a cycle of first, marvelling at their design, followed by 45 minutes of frustrating deaths, and finally elation when I shove my katana through their throat. I'd love to show you them all, but due to embargo restrictions, I can't, unfortunately. So, although I can talk about everything I've done so far, all the footage you'll see here is from the first 2 or so hours of the game. This is a very different game to either Dark Souls or Bloodborne. After spending 20 hours with it, I mostly like the way it sets itself apart, particularly with its timing-based combat, which has given me some of the best sword fights I've had in any video game. However, I'm not fully sold on its emphasis on stealth, and I'll need more time to decide just how much it taints what is otherwise a brilliant action game. Your goal is to rescue your kidnapped master, known as the Divine Heir on account of his ancient bloodline. My journey so far has taken me over mountains, through castle keeps, and into dungeons, following various plot threads and taking on plenty of enemies along the way, including 3 bosses and a dozen or so mini-bosses. You can kill enemies by whittling down their health bar with your katana, but Sekiro's defining mechanic is in the stylish death blow, which you can only deliver if you break an enemy's posture, displayed as a bar below their health. You nudge the bar upwards by hitting L1 or LT to deflect an enemy's strike just before it hits, and then when the bar is full, you can kill them in one shot. Although some bosses and mini-bosses do require 2 or 3 death blows to finish them off. The lower an enemy's health, the more posture damage they take, and the idea is to chip away at their HP until your perfectly timed deflections are powerful enough to create an opening for a death blow. Enemies are fantastically varied, both in terms of their attack type and combat rhythm, and each calls for its own balance of blocking, parrying, dodging, and aggression. 12 hours in, for example, I fought a boss with Wolverine-style spikes who summoned an army of minions made from smoke. Her attacks were spread out enough that she recovered posture faster than I could damage it, so instead I took the traditional Dark Souls approach of dodging her attacks and picking my moments to strike. My favourite boss so far though is the one I'm currently stuck on, a warrior with a sword and a bow that, when defeated, changes form and can then fire electric arrows. And each battle so far has been an endless chain of flowing attacks and counter-attacks, near misses and heavy strikes. Another reason each fight feels so different though is the way that you can customise Sekiro. After losing his arm early on, he gains a shinobi prosthetic that takes various attachments such as a flamethrower or a heavy axe to break shields. You equip one at a time, and some bosses are vulnerable to one in particular. To learn about these weaknesses, you can eavesdrop on enemy conversations and pick up cryptic clues about the bosses ahead, or the locations of certain attachments. For example, I heard 2 enemies talk about how a caged ogre was scared of fire, and my flamethrower made short work of him soon after. There's no character creation here, but I've unlocked 3 separate skill trees to spend points on as I've progressed, each one relating to a different combat style. You can unlock special attacks alongside passive bonuses, such as recovering more HP from healing items, and my currently equipped special move is a slow overhead strike that deals both damage to enemy posture and recovers my own. The story is also more accessible than past From Software games I've played, and it quickly gets you grounded in the setting, but there are numerous subplots, some merely hinted at, and others explored in dialogue that I can't wait to find out more about. The environments are gorgeous, but more importantly are the intriguing characters and enemies down every path. Early on, for example, I met a merchant who lives inside a metal pot on the water's edge, and only takes payment in fish scales. I still haven't bought anything from him, but I intend to return. As I said at the top, the only thing I'm not enjoying is the stealth, which unfortunately is quite a large part of Sekiro. The game encourages you to sneak through the large open areas between boss fights, and you'll find tall grass to hide in, holes to squeeze through in the wall, and rooftop perches to swing to with the grappling hook built into your prosthetic. You don't have to use stealth, but sometimes you'll face groups of 6 or 7 enemies at once, including a mini-boss and ranged enemies with guns. Yes, you could try and encourage them round a corner and take them down one by one, but it's much easier to just grapple up to a ledge, leap down, and stab one in the neck for an instant stealth kill before grappling away again. Both the AI and your movement while sneaking also feels occasionally clumsy. Enemies quickly forget that they've seen you. I've had one archer fire 5 arrows at my position, pause, and then return to their post as if nothing's happened. And alerting enemies has virtually no consequence because you can just hide and try again 30 seconds later. I hope that Sekiro's stealth gets better the further I go into its depths, because it's the only thing I haven't enjoyed. It has some of the best combat in any game ever, enemies that constantly surprise you, and a world that begs to be explored. It's special, I just haven't quite decided how special just yet. So check back in a few days for our ultimate review, right here on Games Radar Plus.